there are a number of things I want to talk about. I'll start off with my little deck of cards here. How many people know how to cut a deck with one hand? Can you raise your hand if you've done that? It takes some practice. So, So how many people have never tried it? Well, see, it looks pretty easy. You just go like this. You just take the deck and you go like this and you drop it. Then you move your finger and do that. So that's it. Yeah, you give it a try. Give it a try. Stand up, please. Let people do this here for you.
I may focus on the dropping part.
Yeah. Very good. So the thing is, it looks so easy. And one of the reasons why I do this is because I'm trying to help my students understand, yeah, it really looks easy when I do those physics problems. It really looks easy when I do all this science. But it's not that easy. And they have to do it. And the whole idea is that science is not a spectator sport. Science is not a noun, it's a verb. There's a process of science. And if you want people to understand science, they have to do science. And it's just like this. You can watch me do this all afternoon, and you will not be able to do it until you get a deck of cards in your hand and start practicing that. So that's, first of all, one of the things I just wanted to mention, how important the experience is of doing science. There's another aspect about the importance of labs and the importance of doing. And that's, that's the idea of the common experience. Often in class, when we're talking to our students, we pretend that we've all had the same experience. And so we say to students certain things, and we know it's not true. So here's the example which really arrested me. About 7 years ago in the New York Times, there was an article which showed a survey of the top 10 television programs of African Americans and the top 10 programs of white Americans. So black Americans, white Americans, here's the TV they're watching. There were only two programs which were on both lists. One was Monday Night Football, the other I think was CSI. I looked at that list and became physically nauseous. Because all of a sudden I realized, oh, that means every time I've used a television reference in class, I've been disenfranchising every child who wasn't like me. Because I'm talking about Seinfeld and they're watching Bernie Mac. And I'm never using Bernie Mac references because I don't even know what that program is. And I said, this is not good. And it happens all the time. It happens in our textbooks where it says, like the waves at the beach. Every earth science book, every physics book says someplace, like the waves at the beach when they introduce waves. Half the kids in Boston have never been to the beach. They live 3 miles away. I have no idea what the kids in Nebraska are thinking when they read, like the waves at the beach. Oh, no. Oh, I'm sorry. The affluent kids who have had vacations in South Carolina, they've been to the beach. They know what it means. They know the energy of wave. But everybody else is like, what does that mean? So we constantly do this, and it happens to us also. I was on a plane coming back from Baltimore. We've been doing some work. And I'm sitting next to this guy. And, we strike up. First of all, he's wearing a Yankees cap going to Boston, which draws everybody's opinion as they get on the plane. And what happened was he said, we started talking about, what are you doing? And he told me he manages some music group or whatever, and we're talking about this. And I said, well, you manage a music group. You can help us in Baltimore. I'm trying to get these kids to do something. We have half the kids are dropping out of high school. He said, they don't listen to me. I said, well, wait, they listen to you more than they listen to me. And he said, nah, but we talk night, and we're trying to solve the problems of Baltimore City on the plane ride from Baltimore to Boston. As the plane gets close to landing, I say, oh, by the way, how's your music group doing? He said, oh, we're doing pretty well. We just came back from Europe. I said, Europe? Wow. He said, yeah, we played, big things. We're playing in Boston. I said, oh, really? I said, what's the name of your group? And he said, Wu-Tang Clan. And I said, Wu-Tang Clan. Let me write that down to see if my kids know that. How do you spell Wu-Tang Clan? And he tells me W-U-T-A-N-G. And I said, and then he tells me his name. He said, here's my cell phone number. If we can figure out anything with Boston, here's my cell phone number. You can call me. Here's my business office. They'll always be able to get it. I said, great. So then I do my culture check when I get off the plane, and I call my 25-year-old son, and I say, Noah, I was sitting next to this guy, and he has a group called Wu-Tang Clan. Have you ever heard of them? And he said, Dad, they're the biggest band in the world. And I said, really? He said, yeah, let me put it in words you understand. They're the Rolling Stones. And I said, oh. At which point I called my other son, because now I had a story, and he said, you asked him to spell it? That's like, how do you spell Beatles? Is that B-E-A-T-L-E-S? We have such different experiences. So how do we do this? Labs is one way to give a common experience. If we have labs in the classroom, it's like, no, let's all talk about this experience. We've all had it, let's talk about that, and then we can learn some science, rather than assuming that people all have the same experience, because we don't. So, if you look at my playing cards here, they have names on them. Leonard, Scott, Jen. Oh, you know why? These are my cards I use in class. When I want to call on people, I use these cards. I ask a question, and then I flip over the card, and then I call the person. Why? Why do I use playing cards? Why don't I just call on me? Why do I use playing cards? Come on, somebody must know.
So we subconsciously call on people for reasons that we're not really aware of. We make unconscious decisions about who we can call on.
We make unconscious decisions about who we're going to call. And that's basically it. I don't trust myself. I don't trust myself to be unbiased because I've read too much literature which says you're going to be biased. I said, not me. But you are. And I don't know if you're biased because you call on the kids on the left versus the kids on the right, or the kids up front versus the kids in the back, or the kids who are the males versus the females, or the blacks versus the white versus the Latinos. But we're biased. We don't even know. But there have been so many studies. So, because even though I'm sure it's not me, I don't trust myself. And so I use the cards. But let me give you some background on that. The Pygmalion studies, which many of you are familiar with, are one of the most disturbing sociology experiments done. What they told teachers was that these students in your class are gifted and talented, and these students are remedial. They did it at random. The kids were just kids. But they identified the kids in a certain way. And then they watched the grades of the kids. And all the ones who were mentioned to the teacher as being gifted were doing well, and all the ones who were mentioned as being remedial were doing poorly. And they said, wow, that's really surprising. I know what we should do. Let's try to watch what's going on in the class to see how does this happen? Because it's random, it shouldn't happen. Well, what would happen is when a student who was marked as gifted and talented, even though they weren't particularly different, was not doing as well, the teacher would come over and say, you really have to work harder. I know you can do this. I won't give up on you. Come on, let's get the work done. And the person would do harder. But that's the one we expect. What was more frightening was when the remedial child would start doing well because they were chosen at random. When the remedial child started doing well, the teacher would say, you don't have to work so hard. I know it's a strain on you. Take it a little easier. Yeah. Not because they're mean-spirited. It's good intentions. We have studies of middle school principals who take children who have identical math scores and put one in the honors math and one in the regular math. How did you make that choice? Oh, well, I know this kid will get support at home because his parents will help him with school, and this one probably won't, so I don't want to put him in a situation where he might not succeed. It's a well-meaning, intentioned person, but look how they're doing it, because they come with bias, and bias really does control us. So what do? Well, what the Philharmonic did was, orchestras used to be all male. Because women aren't that good at playing musical instruments. And what somebody came up with this great idea, why don't we have the auditions, because it should be on the playing ability, why don't we have the auditions behind a curtain? And they set up a curtain, and people would audition behind a curtain. And the judges would all be out there not being able to see. And all of a sudden, women started getting the jobs. In fact, there were women who the people knew, and they said, I didn't know you could play that well. So even when they were playing that well, people didn't hear it as that well because of the bias. And now when you go, you see there are one or two women in every orchestra. So what can we do in school to help us with our bias and help us with well, we have to set up a curtain, but we can set up a curtain. And so we use the playing cards. So let me tell you what happens, though, when you use the cards, because it's also an interesting idea, an interesting experiment to do. When you start using the cards, first of all, the class dynamic changes. You don't have people raising their hand and jumping up and down. Everybody is much calmer when you ask a question. And they listen more intently to the question, and they listen more intently to the answer. That's interesting. Then, what also happens is the extroverts complain. They say, you know, you never call on me. And the introverts say, you're calling on me all the time. And it's like, I'm using cards, come on. But that's their impression. So again, that's what happens because of their personality. So I have to do a card trick now. This is the part where I get the most nervous. Will this card trick work? But let's give it a try here. Pick a card. There you go. Show everybody the card. Everybody seen the card? Okay. Now, if she can't remember the card, somebody else will. Right. No, there's going to be a lot going on. It's like, oh my God, what was the card? Here, take the card. No, take the card. Put it in the deck. Put it in the deck. Give it to Joyce to mix up the cards a little bit. You don't have to cut it with one hand. Just mix them up. Okay, so I'll take them back now. So now I take this deck of cards where you've all seen the card, and we do this, and we, we play with this and stuff like that, and we do this, and we shuffle the cards, and we do all that. And I can take the top 5 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I can put all the other cards here. And now I can take these cards, and I can, let me see. Is this her card?
No.
I'll put that right here. Is this her card?
No.
Put that one right here. Is this her card?
No.
Okay. I'll put this one here. I'll put the other cards back here. Now, there's kind of a little suspense. What's going to happen? The kind of suspense we want to have in our science classrooms that we don't often have. Why? Why do you care? What's going on here? What makes this so interesting?
It's a discrepant event.
It's possibly a discrepant. You don't know. It might not be a discrepant event at all. He had no idea about card. You want to know if it works, if I can do it. Somehow, we all like card games. You don't know how they're going to turn out. That's how science is supposed to be. You're not supposed to know. The scientists don't know how it's going to turn out.